listening to the Agent Survival Guide podcast, a podcast for today's insurance agents. Informing, educating, empowering, improving the way you do business in an industry that's anything but static. In today's episode, we are dusting off the old crystal ball, trying our hand at forecasting some of the upcoming marketing trends for 2025. We've done the research, read the reports, and now it is time to talk about how those trends can apply to insurance agents. First up inside our crystal ball, personalization. We are living in an algorithmic world, and we have come to expect personalized experiences when we're being marketed to. Once upon a time, this was a nice to have. More and more, it is turning into a necessity. Couple of ways for insurance agents to implement this strategy. Location-based marketing is a great place to start if you're not already doing it. Get yourself out there and get involved with your local community. Sponsor a local youth program that matches your interests. I choose to support my local drama and music programs because I know they don't get as much funding as other school programs. You can also join community groups like the Chamber of Commerce and other service organizations. Members typically know what's going on in the community, and there are usually volunteer opportunities available. It's also a great place to network and meet other professionals who might in turn volunteer with an event you put together, or potentially be an affinity partner for your business. Our other personalization options fall on the digital side of marketing. Some examples I've seen include personalized newsletters, dynamic websites, and email campaign automation. Most of these tasks are able to be completed with the help of AI. Specifically for insurance agents, when you sign up for Medicare Center from Integrity, you gain some very cool marketing automation capabilities with our CRM. Client Connect Marketing lets agents create marketing campaigns within Medicare Center. You can email groups of contacts based on existing tags or even their client stage. Messages are pre-approved and compliant, so you don't have to worry about taking a ton of time trying to get your message figured out. We've done that lift for you. All you have to do is choose the type of email you want to send, then fill in a few form fields, and you're good to get started. Medicare Center has campaign templates agents can send to thank a client when they enroll, wish them a happy birthday, prompt them to sign a scope of appointment, and send an invitation to get synced with your Plan Enroll account. We recommend agents start with the happy birthday email campaign and then move on to the others as you get your bearings. Simple automations like what our team has built into Client Connect Marketing can make a big difference in the amount of time you spend sending out individual emails. Automation is a game changer for sure. Next up in our crystal ball for 2025, going hand in hand with personalization, data. You can't really do personalized marketing without data of some sort, but it's becoming more and more challenging to effectively market without data that drills down into the demographics and habits of your audience. And that's because internet users are starting to grasp the worth of their personal data. 2025 just might be the year that third-party cookies officially leave the chat, despite Google going back and forth over whether or not they want to completely get rid of them. For now, they're not getting rid of them, but they're sticking to their privacy sandbox, and most marketers have already adapted their strategies away from cookies. So what's replacing them? Rather than a cookie or a pixel tracking user behavior across the whole of the internet, contextual advertising shows relevant advertisements based on the content a person is consuming. Only that type of advertising is historically, not very personalized. Many of the reports I read suggested an increase in first-party and zero-party data strategies in 2025. Both types of data are more accurate than third-party cookies, but there are some differences between the two that are important. First-party data is when a site collects data with a user's permission. They're typically transparent about how the data is being used and are compliant with data privacy regulations. Examples include data gathered from email, social media, websites, purchase records, and app data, to name a few. Zero-party data, on the other hand, is given freely by the user, usually without anyone needing to ask for that information. But there are some specific requirements, and even though it is a regulation from the European Union, the General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR, contains what are generally considered best practices around zero-party data. Consent must be freely given, informed, granular, explicit, given in advance, easy to withdraw, and finally, it must be documented. Examples of zero-party data include website registration, responses to surveys, social media polls, and gated forms, to name a few. When compared to third-party cookies, first and zero-party data enable marketers to create those more personalized, highly targeted campaigns. Because of the specificity in audience and demographics, you may even be able to cut back on marketing spend while increasing conversion rates. At least that is the idea behind the practice. So 2025 will likely see first-party and zero-party data-driven strategies enter into marketing playbooks, while third-party cookie strategies are on their way out if they're not already gone. And we've seen this in the marketing and communication requirements from CMS. Emails must abide by the CAN-SPAM Act, giving the ability to opt out of future communications. Third-party marketing organizations, or TPMOs, have rules around when and how beneficiary data can be shared. The next item in our crystal ball, also built on the previous trend, analytics. Just like we can't personalize marketing without data, we also need data to populate our analytics. Marketing is a little bit different than sales because it's not a clear path from sale to attribution. According to the RAIN Group, it can take up to 8 touch points to convert a prospect to a sale. Back in my radio days, I was told that an ad needed to be heard at least 11 times in order for it to be effective. And then if you ask other marketing professionals, they might say more touch points, they might say less. The point is, there are a few steps in a buyer's journey between hearing about something or someone for the first time and finally making that purchase decision. Each one of our marketing efforts is designed to aid in moving someone through the buyer's journey from discovery to point of sale. Analytics help us track how many closes we get from each of those stages, what type of material it was, essentially letting us know what works and what doesn't. Marketing is constantly looking at what you're putting out into the world and testing how receptive your audience is to it. Because if it isn't working, there's no need to keep doing it. There are plenty of different marketing methods to choose from, and it's not a one-size-fits-all business. Duplicate what works, make adjustments to what's not working, rinse and repeat. So, how do agents take action on this trend? Let's go back to the example of sending an email campaign. Take a look at your open rates on those emails. If you notice that your open rate starts decreasing, it's time to start testing out new subject lines. If your open rate is good, but people aren't taking action on the items and links in your newsletter, maybe you have too many. Try paring them down. Do you have clear calls to action in each section? Adjust them one by one. Engagement with your client base is huge, and in order to track that, you've got to be digging into your analytics and making marketing decisions based on the data. Now, at this point, you might be thinking that I'm really getting into the weeds, and I would say that's fair. But the final strategy in our crystal ball can help with a lot of the analysis we were just talking about. From my research, it is far and away the biggest marketing trend for 2025. The strategy mentioned more than any others, and that is AI, artificial intelligence. And AI in 2025 is going to look a little different than the AI of 2024. I feel like over the last year, we were inundated with talk about AI, a lot of coverage online and in traditional media. We even got the beginnings of use cases for artificial intelligence. Some not so great AI devices were released. And don't forget, we did have chatbots telling us to put glue on our pizzas. At the end of May 2024, we reported that a lot of people had heard about AI, but adoption was slow. By the end of the year, we started to see companies shift from the idea of a chatbot that you could ask anything to a more personalized experience. Use cases began expanding, with AI acting more as an assistant that can help with tasks rather than just a chat window. This type of AI can be called an agent or assistant. I'm going with the assistant terminology here so it doesn't get confusing. So that was 2024. I think in 2025, we're going to see more personalization. We mentioned earlier that consumers want that. And I think with technology as new and complex as AI, companies are starting to understand that modeling that use case is important. We'll see more of AI acting as an assistant that can help with tasks. And we've already seen some of them in more innovative companies. But functions ranging from asset creation and automation to analytic insight and behavior prediction. I think we'll see a shift from the innovation and early adopter stage to those functions becoming more mainstream in 2025. I mentioned we've already seen the beginning of these capabilities. Some examples include Gemini from Google, Apple Intelligence, and Ask Integrity. We've talked about all three here on the show before, but more extensively about Ask Integrity and Apple Intelligence. And if you've ever wondered why we lean so heavily into the Apple side of technology, well, I've admitted to being an Apple fangirl of sorts many times. Not the Apple Vision Pro buying fangirl type, but definitely the all my tech devices are Apple, and if it were up to me, I'd have a Mac type of Apple fangirl. But it is also because of analytics. Podcast listener data doesn't tell us much. It's historically bad. But one thing it does tell us is where people listen to the show. And for the past 2 years, over half of our audience listens to the show on an Apple product, either in Apple Podcasts, iTunes, or through the Safari web browser. So we talk about Apple because I like staying updated on what they're doing, but we've also got an audience using their products. Think of this as an example of digital marketing analytics. When you add the artificial intelligence in, that's where it gets a little more interesting. So let's get back on topic here. AI has the capability to crunch a lot of data in a very data-oriented, no emotions involved way. That can be a good thing considering us humans have emotions and bias, and at least in my case, no background in statistics. We're going to continue to see these AI assistants crunch a lot of data, churning out reports and insight, predicting customer behavior, and doing the work that, quite honestly, most marketers don't have the time to do themselves. But the results of that work are very important to know if what we're doing is working. Despite what you might have heard about marketing, we really are not just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. And the cool thing about this more assistant-based version functionality of AI, it can be very helpful. So I think we're going to see that continue to evolve. We've established a baseline of what AI can do. The shift from chatbot to assistant is combining AI functions together in very specific ways. What AI can do, how it can act, and in a lot of ways, the assistant capability is combining a lot of those functions together in very specific ways. Another example I want to throw in here, this one that is specific to insurance agents. Ask Integrity, the AI component of Integrity's suite of tech solutions. Agents can find it in the Medicare Center platform or on the Integrity app for agents. Ask Integrity functions as your digital assistant in a couple different ways. By analyzing the data within an agent's CRM, it's able to give in-the-moment recommendations based on your client's history and preferences. It can also sift through client details to give you summaries of the information there. Get a quick summary of their info prior to meeting with them, a summary of what you talked about during the last meeting, the information in the notes section of their client record, and more. As long as you've put those pieces of info into Medicare Center, Ask Integrity can pull it up and summarize it back to you. And then there's Ask Integrity Shoppers, which shipped prior to the 2025 AEP as a way to sort Medicare Center records into categories for needed outreach. A lot of these examples I just mentioned quite literally take the headache out of marketing for agents. That is the version of AI that I like to believe will be the prevailing version. Not the it's going to replace our jobs version, but the it'll help us do our jobs better version. And that leads us quite nicely into some AI concerns I think we'll need to really think about over the course of this year. First and foremost, I mentioned helping us do our jobs better. I firmly believe that artificial intelligence, as it exists right now, still needs human oversight, sometimes a lot of human oversight. I mentioned that asset creation is one of the ways that marketers have been using AI, but it is still in very rough, early stages. I've played around with having AI write things, as one does, and it was never an experience that I would be able to post what was generated without editing. One example I will give, social media posts. I write those for a few different platforms, and I was curious to see what ChatGPT would generate for me. I figured because social media posts are typically pretty short, and I could give it strict parameters around what to generate, that the result would be good. I tested this out by trying to create a post recommending a podcast I had been listening to. The results were laughable. Then I tried switching it up to one of my other interests, nail polish. Once again, no. In both cases, I remember getting material back that was way too long. It looked more like an article than a social post. Obviously, there were words, but there were also emojis and bullet points, and the content didn't really make sense. It had plenty of buzzwords in it, sure, but it was very generalized content that would not have enticed me to act. Since that test, I've seen a lot of those same kinds of posts, frequently on LinkedIn, but also on other social networks. The TLDR, it was not good content, so I'm not sold on writing capabilities just yet. Also, when it comes to length, and this is a helpful marketing tip here, if I plan on posting a link within a social media post, I want that clickable link to appear before my audience has to click on read more to get to the link. That is the social media equivalent of above the fold. I do not read those super long posts on social unless they really hook me in. And I'm guessing that most others don't either. Also, to come in 2025, I think we'll see more ethical concerns about AI, probably some we haven't even thought or talked about yet. One of the biggest that I think the population at large, outside of the creative ecosystem, isn't thinking about yet. Where does the data come from? I think that's an important question that people should be asking right now. We've heard about companies training their AI models on data without consent of creatives. I'm not okay with that, but I'm not really sure where I fall on the spectrum of fair use when it comes to training AI. Definitely looking forward to more conversation on that subject. One thing is for sure, AI is not going anywhere just yet. I think we'll see more interesting evolution in 2025
that will give us a better idea of its future potential. So that is what is in my crystal ball for 2025. I will definitely have to revisit this episode at the end of the year to see what I got right and what was completely off. But for now, personalization, data privacy, analytics, and AI, on their own or combined, will be the marketing trends to watch in 2025. Thank you so much for listening to this installment of our Agent Survival Guide podcast. Don't forget that you can send us feedback on this episode at asgpodcast@ritterim.com. That link, along with additional resources and references, can be found in the episode notes. Thanks again for listening. We will see you next episode.
The Agent Survival Guide podcast is a production of Ritter Insurance Marketing, an integrity company. This episode was written and produced by me, Sarah Ruppel. Script proofing by Tina Lamoureux. Podcast design by Urban Rivera. Artwork by Vivian Zhao. Follow along with our show wherever you like to listen. Rate and review our show on Apple or Spotify.